I feel a personal affinity for this plant because I practice plant-based alchemy, and the plant's name is Alchemilla, the little alchemist, and this was a plant revered by the alchemists. And because, you know, in alchemy, there's certain waterworks that are done that specifically relate to dew. There's ways they say that, you know, dew has a very magical property to it because it's the moisture that's collecting on the earth. It's not from raining, it's just that natural moisture. They say it's like, they say there's a central fire in the center of the earth that's radiating heat out, and that heat of the earth radiates out, and when it hits that cool air that meets in the middle, and that water kind of collects and condenses. So there's times, and they say that then that dew collects the celestial fire. And so it's a very special form of water used in alchemical works. And, you know, there's old drawings of people doing dew work where they kind of put these 4 stakes out on the ground in the field at certain times of year. Typically around this time, it's springtime here, and tying a sheet to those stakes, so it's just sitting a little bit off the ground, and then you go out there in the early morning and you wring that dew out and you collect all of that dew, and then typically use that for special alchemical works where special waters are involved. And that's one of the cool things I love about alchemy, you know, is every kind of detail of the medicine making process is looked at, you know, not just like, oh, just get some water out of the tap, or oh, just pour some alcohol over it, but they're really thinking about like, well, what's the nature of that water? Where did that alcohol come from? What's the nature of that alcohol? What plant is it from? When was it distilled, etc. So that's kind of one of the special things about alchemy that I love, and one of the reasons why I really love this plant and its relationship to the water element, and that kind of brings us to what I refer to as the energetic architecture of this plant, or how it relates to, you know, the archetypal forces of nature. And so in accordance to the elements, this is a water element plant, as you might assume after all that talk about water and dew. You know, this plant is operating on dampness in the body. It's operating on the water element organs of the body predominantly, right? It kind of has an affinity, you know, I tend to talk about affinity in terms of like specific organs, but we can also just think of areas of the body, right? Like some herbs have like a very pectoral affinity. They just work up, they move up here. Some of them work deep, some of them work superficially, some of them work, you know, better for circulation down into the legs, some of them up into the head, right? So that's another way of thinking of affinity. And with Lady's Mantle, I really see it as kind of working in that pelvic region. And hence it's very good for the kidneys, which govern the water element, the uterus, which is governed by the water element, and the kind of those lower parts of circulation, specifically in the veins. So it kind of has this lower area affinity, and really working strongly on those water element organs and parts of the body, as well as the water element tissue state with the damp relaxation pattern. And then considering its planetary correlation, I tend to think of Lady's Mantle as being governed by Venus. Many Venusian plants tend to, like, Venus is the great relaxant, right? So Venus, its property commonly relaxes things, but we look at the lens of these archetypal influence on kind of on the spectrum of sympathy and antipathy. So whereas many Venusian plants tend to kind of relax your system and make you feel more calm, many of them are antispasmodics, some of them are the opposite of that, right? And so that's what we see with Lady's Mantle, is that it's a Venus plant that treats a Venus imbalance, being that relaxed tissue state. So it's used for an excess of Venus in the body, right? The Venus organ systems tend to be the female reproductive system, the kidneys and urinary tract. And then we have Venus being that relaxant virtue. When it's in excess within a system, it tends to create relaxation within the tissues. Venus also rules the venous side of circulation. So there's another correlation there. So multiple layers of correspondence to Venus, and it's just a lovely plant too in the way its texture is specifically. Like, it's super soft, right? It's a really soft plant, and that to me also is kind of an indication. It's just beautiful, you know, it's a lovely plant. Many Rosaceae plants tend to be governed by Venus. And then we could say it's sub-ruled by the moon, you know. It does have kind of like a little bit of that softer, silvery appearance to the green in the leaves. And of course, the moon governing, you know, the whole water economy within the system. There is some correlation there as well. But I really predominantly tend to consider this a Venusian plant.